Hello there. Welcome to my virtual campfire. I am so excited today to be here with Mary Kennedy. She is a clinical hypnotherapist and a Reiki master. I'm really excited to hear about her trainings that she's done and her career. Mary, do you want to introduce yourself?
Well, hypnotherapy, I started taking the training in 2011. I was working full time. So it's been kind of off and on part time for most of it. But I did graduate from the Northwest Hypnosis Institute and the Gresham Hypnosis School. And I'm certified by both the National Guild of Hypnotists and the United States Board of Clinical Hypnotists. I'm certified in neuro-linguistic programming and Dolores Cannon's Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And I'm also a Reiki master.
Remember the first time I met you and you said that you had the really divine opportunity to study with Dolores herself. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, it was, I actually found out about it from another hypnotist who I met at a metaphysical fair, and she said Dolores was coming to town. And so I was able to sign up and take her course actually before I got certified as a hypnotist. So that was my first introduction to hypnosis. And I believe that was 2011 or even 2010. But I was living in Portland, and she had come to Portland to give a 2-day seminar training, and it was real close to my house. So I was really lucky to find out about that and get to it. And also lucky that I got to take the training from her because, she did recently, or maybe not so recently, pass away. So I was really blessed to actually have gotten training from her. And so this was a seminar, and it was very well attended, and it went for 2 days. And she brought with her as like an assistant and a demonstration a woman named Dee Wallace, who many of you may know is a movie actor. She was in Cujo and E.T. and other things that I don't recall, but she did a demonstration with Dee, who she had worked with previously. So she was able to get her into trance pretty quickly and go through the process. And it was pretty amazing. And she went very deep very quickly and got very emotional about her daughter. And I can't remember if it was her daughter in this life or in a past life or both, because it was many years ago now. But anyway, so this was when I first saw Dolores up on the stage, and I thought, man, she looks just like my grandmother. She just had this very grandmotherly, caring air about her. She looks like everybody's grandma. and she was very articulate, very very well versed, did a wonderful job. And on a personal note, she was just very sweet. I mean, I remember there were some tables that were around the perimeter of the room with different books for sale and things, and I was standing in line, and all of a sudden I feel these like fingernails across my shoulder blades real lightly, and I hear a woman say, "Oh, doggies." It's so cute because I was wearing a jacket that had dogs on it. And anyway, I turned around, and it was Dolores, and she was standing there smiling and just very sweet. And there was also, I got a chance to interact with Dee Wallace on a deeper level as well, because they did some kind of raffle, and I won the raffle, and it was for a free psychic reading with Dee Wallace. And I had no idea that she was a psychic, but she is. I think she has some books out. But yeah, so that was, and I made some friends in that course, and some of whom I'm still friends with today. So it was a great experience.
How do you think that doing that training before you did your certified hypnotherapy, did it affect your the trajectory of your work, or how do you think that affected you?
Well, as Dolores said at the beginning, she said, you don't have to have any classical hypnosis training to take this course. And it may be to your advantage not to, because there may be things that are taught in the classical clinical realm that you would have to either unlearn, or the ideas might butt up against each other. So it I think it was a good thing I took it first, because it did, for one thing, I could go in completely open and unprejudiced. And for another thing, when I did go to the formal training, which was shortly thereafter, I was able to bring that prior knowledge and experience that I got in her training with me. And I think to where I am today, I would say I really focus now on forensic hypnosis and past life regression and the quantum healing hypnosis. So I would say it really affected my direction that I went.
And how can you I like to think of regression hypnosis as a healing practice. Can you tell me how you see that, or how you've seen in your clients how it's been healing?
Yes. Are you referring mostly to like past life regression?
Yeah, past life regression,
Yeah.
or even abduction regressions. I mean, that's what I tend to think about a lot, because I'm really into extraterrestrial interactions.
Yes,
But I believe that what we've done in our past lives also helps with understanding our soul mission and kind of why we're here. So I'd love to hear from
absolutely.
you how you see that as being helpful for people.
Well, I've seen in my clients, with the past life work and the quantum healing work, I've had people come out of a session and they're in tears, because by going to a relevant past life, and you do set the intention for that when you do past life regression or the QHHT, which um, starts with a past life, and you go in with the intention of connecting to issues you were having in your present life. Like if you're having contentious family relationships and you go into a past life, your subconscious will take you to a past life where you've interacted with these same souls in different um, circumstances. Like your son in this life may have been a father in a past life, and there's a lot of, I would call it karmic healing that goes on, and people, they always get something out of it. And a lot of them are just moved to tears, which always just thrills me, of course. But yeah, the past life is very therapeutic. It really can either show you an interaction with members of your soul group, or reasons why you're having to work through some certain karma. Or I had one client that was having a really rough time in this life, and she went back to a past life where, I mean, it was just, everything was wonderful. And her whole past life was just like almost like a fairy tale. Everything was good. And when she died in that past life, she died happy and fulfilled. And when she came out of that session, she was like, that's exactly what I needed. I needed to
Mm.
know that I had that kind of thing possible for me. And then, and I remind people too, once, they're out of trance, is, that's a part of your soul, and that's a part you can access when things get tough. Just remember that is also you. That past life was also you. And you can draw from those strengths that you had in a past life and bring them into your current experience.
Yeah. What would you say to someone who has fear of looking into their past lives? Because I know before I did some regression therapy, I was actually scared to do it. It took me a few years to actually agree and commit to myself that I was going to do it. So what would you say to someone like me who is kind of scared?
Well, with past life, it doesn't come up that frequently that people are afraid. But I also, in a course that I taught up at the college, I would always tell people that if if you don't believe in past lives, or if you don't, if you're nervous about it, you can think of it as a metaphor. So whatever comes up is just like a metaphor that your subconscious is using to help heal issues you're having. And there's no reason to fear it, because it's in the past. We've all had so many experiences, and it's going to be different every time, and it's going to be different for every person, and there's no reason to fear it. Now, with the forensic hypnosis for the abduction, that one I treat differently, because that is a case where you have to be very aware of what you're going into. And that is one where I've come up against people who go, I want to know, but I don't want to know, or I'm afraid to know. And I just tell people, you don't go into hypnosis with that attitude. Just start to consider all the pros and cons. And when you're at a place, or if you're ever at a place where there is more incentive for you to have knowledge than there is for you to fear that knowledge, then you're at a place where I feel I could safely take someone back to experience that. So as far as the abduction, you have to keep in mind some pros and cons. And on the con side, you might find that your relationship with family and friends and loved ones may change if you share the information. You have to consider, is the timing right? Is there anything else in your life going on that might impact you in a negative way that would make anything, you don't want to have it be a tipping point event if there's other things going on in your life that are maybe not real positive. Also, people, if I would never do one for people that have known emotional or mental problems, because it could be very contraindicated to take a person to an experience like that if they're already dealing with things like depression or anxiety. So those things could be worsened. And of course, there's always a chance of a false memory, or what they call confabulation. But on the plus side, when you're under hypnosis, you are still in control. You are always in control as the client. And so at any point, if it gets to be too much, you can come out of trance spontaneously. You can ask for the session to be ended. You could say, I don't want to look at this. This is information I'm not ready to receive. So you're always in control. So I think that can kind of alleviate some fears. So also, if you do it, your concept of reality could be broadened, which is always a good thing. You may find you have gains in self-awareness, or possibly even a lessening of anxiety, because now there's not that kind of nebulous what's going on always nagging at you, because now and you can move forward and do something to address it. And you just may be able to positively reassess your life or your thoughts or behaviors with the new information that you have and the new understanding of yourself. So that's the things to consider if you think you've had an abduction experience. And I have done sessions with people for that, and I've never had it end negatively. For the most part, people are always glad they did it. Once you weigh out all the things that you need to think about and come into the decision feeling prepared, then the outcome is not always, but it's more often positive than negative. I did have one session. This was not an abduction. It was a paranormal experience about a childhood incident involving a haunted doll that this person as an adult really wanted to know, had a partial memory, wanted to know what had happened. And he went very deep, and he got real answers. But it did kind of shake him up a little bit for a minute. But it's I then had a psychic friend of mine take a look at the results too, and she goes, oh yeah, that doll was haunted, but it was haunted by a child spirit that really just wanted to play with him as a little boy. And So then he felt better.
Yeah.
But
Like, I think for me, I had such a big mystery in my mind that I thought I was like hiding from myself. And so the fear of what could I possibly be hiding? Why would I hide something from myself kind of idea. But as soon as I the memories came back, they were very clear. And I in a way it gave me more confidence because I didn't have this mystery of like, what would I hide from myself? It's like I was truer to myself of knowing, oh, this happened. And yes, it did broaden my,
yeah,
my perception of what is and what interacts with us on earth. And it was a very healing experience for me. And I think gave me confidence to talk about it more with people and be like, okay, this isn't just something I made up, or this isn't anymore a large mystery that I just don't know what happened. It just was really like the biggest mystery to me. So just knowing things, and not that I even know everything. There's still like parts of time that I really can't account for, but I think generally I have a good idea of what happened to me, and that's very much more comforting than that mystery of just not knowing.
yes, yeah, because knowledge is power. And I apologize. My dog is vocalizing a lot. Is it coming across? Oh,
I no,
oh,
and
goodness.
if we hear the dog, that's okay. He needs to be heard.
I took him for a long walk before this so he would settle down, but it didn't work. But
That's so
he does.
funny. A lot of times my cat will come in. I try to shut my door, but he figures out how to open it and he'll just start,
Yeah,
coming
yep.
and taking a visit. He wants to see what I'm doing.
Curiosity and catch, how that goes. um,
Do you have a favorite regression that you've ever done?
oh wow. They're all so unique, and it's hard to pick a favorite. I will say one because it was so intriguing to me. And this was with a woman that took the Dolores Cannon training with me. And so, at the end of the training, a lot of us exchanged numbers and stuff so we could work with each other. And so I was doing a quantum healing session with her and, going back to a past life. And she had the most amazing past life. And this happens a lot too, is when you go to a past life, you're not necessarily going to be an earth human. You could be anything, and in anywhere. So this woman went back to a life where she was some kind of crystalline being on another planet. And
Oh,
all these sentient crystals was what populated this planet. So they were they were different sizes. She said some were long and tall, and some were shorter and squat and kind of like quartz crystals. And I said, "Well, what did you do on this planet?" And she said, "We collect light from the universe, from other stars, and then we redirect it and send it down to planets that need that light energy." So they were just like a collector distributor thing for positive energy and light. And I thought, now that is really fascinating. And not a week later, I came across a news story. I don't even know how this happened. It's one of those synchronicity things. But I came across a news story about NASA having discovered what they called diamond planets in their exoplanets, so outside our solar system. But what they could gather from the information they got was that these planets were pretty much made up of a diamond-like crystal. And that's all these planets were, like a planet full of diamond-like crystals. And I went, oh my God, that's pretty synchronistic. So that
that
was one of my
that
favorites.
is really, really synchronistic. And another thing that I'm just going to add to this is I've had dreams of being on a similar type of planet,
Oh,
and I was living in a I I I thought of it as like a crystal castle. It was all made of it was made of just glass, or it could have been crystal, but there were crystals everywhere. And when I woke up from that dream, it was like I really had been there, and I've intentionally gone to sleep before and asked to go back to that same place again. And I wonder if it's a similar place, like it's so, I got chills when you were just telling me what she said that they did with the light. Because I can almost like see it. That's really fascinating.
Yeah, it is. That's one thing I love about this work is it's never the same twice. It's very interesting, very unique. I had another client who went back to a life on Earth, but not as a human being. It was way, way in the past, like, pre-modern society, and she was able to describe what kind of work they were doing with the human population, and how much larger she was as this being, how much larger she was than the humans, and um, even describing the attire she was wearing, and I immediately popped into my mind was Anunnaki, and then but she was struggling. I think I don't know, and I couldn't say anything. I didn't want to lead her at all, but after the session, she did come up with it on her own that she's, I think I was an Anunnaki. So it's really interesting.
That's great. I love that so much. Um, I just want to see if what you were thinking maybe popped back into your head, or if there was anything else that you wanted to share with people. I'm going to share this on my podcast, and I'm also going to use bits and pieces for our Universe on Earth project, where we are talking about disclosure and healing around the idea of disclosure, and all of that. So if there's anything that pops in your mind, I'd love to hear anything. And if not, then that's great too.
Well, do you have any questions about hypnosis in general, or what happens, the process?
I was wondering, because I have a deep meditation practice. So for me to drop into hypnosis was not difficult. What do you do when people don't have that practice? And are there tools that you have to use, or how does that work?
It works if you're a meditator, you could think of it as like a guided meditation, where you use different techniques to bring people down, out of their beta state down into alpha, or even into a little bit of delta. So there's they call it an induction, and there's different ways of inducing trance, different inductions you can use. And sometimes you have to experiment a little to find what works best with the client. And by doing an effective pre-talk kind of interview, you get a sense of how their mind works. Are they more in the spiritual side? Are they more in the technical side? Are they coming at this from a place of skepticism, or do they, that by analyzing that information you get from the initial talk, you can decide which induction might be best. And then once you get the person down into trance, then it's in the trance, it's like a focus concentration. It's an inward focus concentration. It's not like being spaced out. And you either guide them through a memory by asking some questions and keeping most of those questions open-ended and very non it's kind of a balance between, like, if you were doing an abduction one, you have to guide them through without implanting in their mind any of your own preconceptions. Like, you wouldn't say, how many aliens are standing around you at the table? You would say something like, are there other entities in the room, and could you describe them if they are? That kind of thing. So it sort of is tailored to each individual. And honestly, I kind of rely on, I don't know if you would call it guides or intuition or spirit, but a lot of times I feel guided to say certain things at certain times to certain individuals. And I do start before a session, I do ask for guidance and how to help the person the best way I can.
That's really smart. A lot of times we just forget to ask, you know? Yeah. The other thing that came into my mind was there were two things. What, nowadays we do so many things over Zoom, and how does that affect your practice with people? Do you prefer in person? Are you able to do things over the internet? Like how does that, yeah, how do you think about that?
Um, I would honestly, if it was an abduction regression, I would prefer to do it in person, just because I think it's more comforting to the individual. If it's something like a past life, or even, well, I'm not sure about that, but a past life, or even just like clinical hypnosis for weight loss or something, over Zoom is fine, and I've had good results with that too. It's I'm part-time enough not to really have an office, so it's much easier for me to do the Zoom. And I also
Hmm.
do group regressions in the class that I do at the Whatcom College.
That's cool. The group work is interesting. Another topic that I think about a lot, and practices that I do involve reprogramming my subconscious, because I believe that, from a very young age, we're programmed through our education system, through propaganda, through all these different things. And I kind of got to this point where I wanted to know more truly what I was without the programming. Are there some tools that you have found helpful for reprogramming subconscious?
Well, that's basically what hypnosis is all about, is reprogramming your subconscious, and NLP as well, neuro linguistic programming. And aside from that, there's self-hypnosis and meditation, I think, are the two main tools anybody can access and learn. So that's the best way, is to go inside, and if you can drop your brain waves down into the lower states, then you can access your subconscious a lot easier. And because in our waking everyday state, there's like the conscious mind acts as a gatekeeper to the subconscious. So you have to bring those brain waves down to a place, and intention has everything to do with it, and just being able to quiet the mind and go inside.
A lot of times I find that if I um, think less and feel more,
Yes.
then I kind of get more into that state where I'm more at my I don't know, base level
Mhm.
self, or maybe that's your higher self. I'm not sure.
I would call it your higher self, yeah. And myself,
Your higher self, yeah.
I think that's what your subconscious is, part of your higher self. So, I mean, it's where all your memories are stored. It's where all your programming is stored. So being able to access it is just super helpful. And again, you can learn self hypnosis fairly easily, and go in with intention that you want to address something that you believe is programmed. And even with things like weight loss, so much of people that have struggles with weight, so much of that is programming from our childhood. There's starving kids in other countries. You got to clean your plate, and it's there's so many different messages we get growing up that we internalize, and we don't realize that's what we're accessing when we're creating patterns in our life. But so yeah, that's really wise.
When I was growing up, my would have called it like new age, like like and I was always kind of warned growing up that be careful of the new age things. And
Oh
then
yeah,
as I've gotten older, I'm like, do they realize they named me Crystal? And
yeah. I
it's
know
just
what
kind of some of the programming I've had to release, but
And the funny thing is that a lot of what there, is labeled New Age is actually ancient knowledge that is being
Exactly.
reaccessed. Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Labels
it's
can be
more
never.
of a remembering than a
Yeah,
learning.
yeah, yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Well, Mary, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing your stories. And I'm just very grateful that you were able to take the time out and that your dog allowed a little bit of time for you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Crystal. I really feel honored that you asked me to be on your program.
Awesome.